What's up, guys? Welcome back to the video. Today's going to be a little short video. We are recording a video for the GTR either tonight or tomorrow that we will post on Sunday. What we're doing in today's video is this. I think I may have showed a little clip of this in one of the GTR videos we did, but this is a B16 Vtec head swap onto a B18B engine. So we've done a head gasket, ARP studs. We have done Skunk 2 intake manifold. It already had the intake on it, and that's about it. So a few little things like that. We're also running Hondata on this engine. So what we're doing today is basically going back through and then making sure the valve lash is good. So basically, based on the standards of what Honda shows, that's what we're going off of. That's what we're going to be doing. So pretty straightforward. There's a ton of videos on how to do this online, so I'm not really going to go through the process because there's a lot of good ones, longer tutorials. So that's what we're doing today. Once I get that done, we'll be breaking it in. I mean, it's an older engine, so it's not really going to take much. It's an NA car. Tuning's going to be very easy. Already have the Hondata in there. One thing to mention, if you are doing a B series swap with an engine like this, is you're going to have to do some manipulation to the distributor wiring. The biggest thing to remember is there's a light blue and a dark blue wire. Anybody that knows me knows I'm pretty colorblind, so I got those backwards. It's no engine damage or really will cause a problem, other than you'll probably get a code for your crank position, and then your RPM is going to be all over the place. So if you're doing that, keep that in mind. Guys, we just got through with cylinder 3, cylinder 4, moving on to cylinder 1. One thing I wanted to mention real quick, just an opinion of mine, is I think it's easier to go ahead, loosen up all of the lock nuts before you make your adjustment. Also, what I like to do, tighten up the adjustment screw all the way until it is basically locked down all the way onto the lobe itself. Which we like to do is adjust it based on the top of the rocker, I guess is what you could call it, and then on the actual cam lobe itself. So we tighten these adjustments all the way down to where it's actually touching, and then we get our feeler gauge, and then we make our adjustment. There is a special tool that you can use to do this that either Honda sells or you can buy it from some aftermarket companies. It's not necessarily required. I know that a lot of people say you have to have it, but luckily we live in the world of cheap tools, so you can get you like a crescent wrench like this, and then bend it to where you can still get your adjustment in there, so you can hold it while you do your adjustment. The one thing too that you want to keep in mind, whenever you get your adjustment screw right where you want it, to where the feeler gauge feels good, you don't want to adjust this screw whenever you're trying to tighten up this lock. Get it tightened up, we get it where we want it, and then we snug it down with our drill, our impact. It's a light impact, and then we just look at the setting on that screw there to make sure it didn't change, and then we get our feeler gauge and then do it one more time. So that's my little tip of what we like to do, that we recommend. So we get these all the way up to the top, and then you can back down from there. The reason that we do that is because if you try to get it somewhere in the middle and then you keep having to adjust it, it makes it kind of a pain. So what we do is get it there, get our feeler. Obviously it's not going to go in there because it's bottomed out basically all the way. So then you can kind of do your adjustment turns. It's very, very sensitive. So there's an exhaust side and then there is an intake side. Make sure that you look that up to make sure you have the right. But see, with those little turns that I have, it's already close to where we need it to be. So instead of having to do 5 or 6 adjustment measurements, you really only have to do like 2 or 3. It's still a little loose. There is, I think, a plus or minus 0.02 millimeter that you can use there. So I mean, you just got to get it very as close as you possibly can. That right there's a little too tight, because I'm using a little tighter clearance feeler gauge here. So that feels good right there. So what we will do is go ahead and tighten it how I described, move over to the other side of the intake, and then go to the exhaust. This one's done. We have a list showing that we did all the proper adjustments. Last thing we're going to do, turn it over by hand a couple times, make sure it feels good. You're not really going to be able to tell a lot by cranking it over by hand, because I mean, if it was super tight, then you probably would. But with the adjustments that we have and with the clearance that Honda gives you, you shouldn't really be able to tell a big resistance or anything whenever you do it properly. So what we're going to do right now is, we noticed we have a gasket, a new gasket for it, and then the gaskets that are actually helping with the to keep the oil out of the spark plug holes, those are leaking. So I think we have a new set of those as well that we're going to throw on here. Then we're going to start it up. Guys, we have the valve cover back on. We got the spark plugs in. We got the spark plug wires in. One thing we need to do real quick is to just validate our idle's fine. We do have an idle control valve on here, but I feel like the idle is a little high. So there's an adjustment screw here for the throttle, for the actual throttle, and then I think there's an adjustment somewhere here where you can adjust the throttle plate. What we're going to do for now though is try to adjust this, and then just make sure that we're good. Doesn't seem to me like we have any vacuum leaks, which is nice. So we're just going to go ahead, get the bleeder back on, try to start it up, and then if it starts up fine, everything seems fine, then we'll go ahead and bleed it with the coolant, finish up the tune. One thing that the customer still needs is the power steering bracket for the B16 head. So we need that so we can run the power steering. But right now we have everything else hooked up. So we're gonna go ahead and fire it. We did get the Vtec wire plumbed into the ECU, so we should be able to use Vtec now as well, which was the whole point of the head conversion. So stay tuned for that. We're gonna go ahead and get it off the lift, see if we can go and start it, see how it goes. Right now we have the Hondata set up on the computer, so we can go ahead and look at the maps. We have the Vtec disabled right now, so we can kind of just work on the base map a little bit, tweak it. It doesn't have a wideband, so we're just going to be going off the narrow band for some of the closed loop stuff. But we're going to check our sensors, our parameters. Everything looks like it's in line from what it should be. So let's give this thing a crank. AF is for our wideband. We don't have that hooked up. That's why it's reading so lean. But everything else seems to be working. We are going to go ahead and try to start it if the battery will allow us. Yeah. There it is. So the battery is definitely dead. Let's go ahead and get a live look at, we're idling a little high. Obviously we're around 1400 RPM. We want to be around 850. So we're going to need to adjust that. We're going to let it warm up for a minute, check everything out under the hood. Sounds really smooth. We have a little bit of, I wouldn't say a miss, just kind of a tough idle. So we're going to check that out before making any adjustments. We're going to let it warm up, go ahead and bleed it, since we did have to take all the coolant stuff off to change the head out. Once we get the head stuff done, or not the head stuff, once we get the coolant, everything bled, check the temperature, then we'll go ahead and do a little bit of adjustment. Since we don't have the power steering bracket yet, we'll probably hold off on doing the street tuning for now. Alright guys, we got it pretty warm. I wanted to show this part of the video real quick. We're around 165 degrees, so we still got a little bit as far as temperature. I'm gonna give it a nice little rev. Idle is coming down a little bit, so it seems like the idle control valve is doing its job like it's supposed to. So that's about it. So I'm gonna let it warm up a little bit, finish bleeding it. If you do not have one of these bleeders, I would definitely recommend it. It is awesome, helps a ton for bleeding. And then also, if you have any coolant left into the actual funnel, you can close it out and do that. So thermostat hasn't really opened up yet, which is fine. Once that goes through, we'll let everything else do its part. Make sure the fan kicks on when it's supposed to, and then we'll finish up the tune. So hope you enjoy, guys. Take it easy. Peace.